Okay, so welcome to our workshop, Bringing Efficiency Home. This is Mark Montgomery. Debbie, come on up. Debbie Orfalian. You're going to have to come close to Mark. They will present information that I think you will find valuable for yourselves and for your children. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, productivity is my passion. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background. You heard that I've been at JPL for 38 years. I've had a great career. I've loved it. But my passion has been improving productivity across teams, but really individual productivity, because that's where it all starts. When I was 12 or 13, I can remember reading an article in a magazine, probably Boy's Life or something like that. And it was about Frank Galbraith, who was a time motion study expert, wrote Cheaper by the Dozen. Maybe you've heard of that one. Okay. So he had, a dozen kids, and he applied his techniques at home to be completely efficient. That's what the book and the movie that followed was all about. But the story I was reading just fascinated me. He had several examples, but one that just stuck with me was he would look at like a bricklayer who got his mortar, got his bricks, and he's laying 3 bricks a minute. And so Frank would watch him for a little while, and then he'd say, okay, let me make some adjustments. Let's move your mortar over here. Let's move the bricks in a little different way. Now try it. And the bricklayer would now lay, and now he's laying 4 bricks a minute. It's not a different person. It's the exact same resources. He's 33% more productive by just making a couple of adjustments. And that somehow has really stuck with me. And I didn't realize until years and years and years, looking back, that's been a theme throughout my life. Every move I made at JPL career-wise was based on, I thought this would improve productivity. And I'm not talking about small levels. That 30% fascinated me. And I'm thinking 50%, 80%, without changing the people, the money, anything like that, just working differently. So that's been my fascination. I co-created JPL Productivity Improvement Program back in 2009, and I've managed it since then. I love doing it, but the part I really love is working with individuals so that they can be productive at their desk. So I'm going to tell you some stories there. And most of this is aimed at the students. So there you go. Is it just not too much to do? Is it not enough time to get it done? Too many competing assignments, not sure which one to do first? Seems to be little time for doing the things that you really want to do, enjoying your free time. Is it possible to reduce your stress, complete homework in half the time that you're doing it now, improve your grades while you're up to it, and then have some free time to do some other things that really fascinate you and are fun? And the answer is yes, an emphatic yes. And we're going to share a little exercise in a little bit. I'm going to demonstrate it for you. So one thing I've found in my journey on productivity improvement, and I've studied things like Lean, Six Sigma, theory of constraints. I don't know if that means anything to you folks, but lots and lots of productivity tools and techniques. But one thing that fascinates me is repeatedly you find that just a small, simple change can have a huge impact. And that to me was something just fascinating, because as humans, we tend to think big problem must have big, expensive, difficult, challenging solution. And repeatedly, it turns out that that's not the case. However, the thing I also find is that those simple solutions are almost always counterintuitive, not intuitive. So you don't always think of them. But those kind of things, finishing your homework in half the time, improving your grades, feeling more relaxed about school, finding time for yourself, it doesn't require a big solution. All right, so simple changes in behavior can have a profound effect. And I want to show you a technique, and you've all got a little worksheet there. We're going to do it in a minute. But this technique is very simple, but you have to have the discipline to apply it. It just means you're going to have to do something differently. Humans don't tend to like change, so for the first 21 days till you have a new habit, it's a little bit of a challenge. Debbie's going to tell you about doing it at home and how she and her daughter worked on it and then got really good at it. It's widely used by people and companies to dramatically improve their productivity. I was introduced to this back in 2009 when we went benchmarking at Boeing Corporation. In fact, this exercise I'm going to show you was something they showed me there at their company. And it's based on a mathematical law. It's called Little's Law, and I'm not going to go into the details of that. But basically, if you limit the number of things that you focus on at a time, you're going to be significantly more productive. You're going to get things done much quicker. So, you can't read this, I can tell. This is something that the folks at Boeing gave me when we went down there to benchmark. It was an article that they had written, and I'm going to step over here for a second because I do want to read some of these words, but I've highlighted some things in here in this article about using this in a number of things. One of the things they said, the concept is so basic, it might easily be dismissed. And the second thing they said, surprisingly simple, but counterintuitive. So, like I said, when they first showed me this exercise, frankly, it didn't quite sink in how significant this was. It took a little while, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. All right. I just love this Russian proverb. If you chase two rabbits, you'll catch neither one. And so we want to chase one rabbit. We want to catch it. We want to have progress and something productive. So we're going to try this exercise. And Debbie's going to make sure everybody's got a writing implement, a pencil. If you don't have it, and there's worksheets here. I'm going to snitch one. Do you have worksheets? So come on up on the table. There's pencils up here. There's worksheets. What's that?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, no, yeah. It doesn't matter, just as long as you can make a mark. Okay, looks like most folks have a worksheet. So, I'm going to explain the exercise. The run one, the first side you should be on is the one that says multitasking. Now, who has heard that the way to be successful is to multitask? That's what I heard. That's what I was told growing up. Yeah, you got to have all the balls in the air and do as many things as possible, and you're going to be highly successful. Oh, terrible. Multitasking kills productivity. In fact, there was an article in a magazine at JPL. Actually, it wasn't a JPL magazine, but I saw it on the wall there, and I picked it up because it says multitasking, is basically kills productivity. So I was fascinated with this, and I opened the article, and I'm reading it, and they already said not only does it kill productivity, it kills brain cells and all kinds of stuff. So I've still got that article. All right. What we're going to do is we've got 4 tasks that we need to do. So if you're a student, let's say you've got 4 homework assignments that you've got to do. So you're going to maybe read a couple of chapters in the book and maybe study for a test tomorrow or whatever it is. And you're going to kind of, read a couple of paragraphs and then decide to study for the test a little bit, and you're going to multitask, okay? If you've got a job, by the way, this applies to everybody that's got a job, you've got 4 priority assignments. They are this 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order, all right? And so you've got 4 customers that want you to finish these assignments. When you multitask, by the way, if you can tell your customers, hey, I'm working on it. And as a manager, didn't I love to say that? Customer, hey, I'm working on it. We're going to get it soon. All right. As opposed to, we're not quite on yours yet because it's not top of the priority list. It doesn't sound as good when you're talking to people. All right, so here's the tasks. The task 1 is basically little a, little b, little c, all the way through little j, okay? But the way you're going to do it now, you're going to do little a, and then you go down to task 2, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. But you're going to do little a, and then you're going to do a 1. Then you go down to task 3, which is capital A. And then you go to task 4, which is the very difficult Roman numerals. And you're going to put Roman numeral 1 in there. Now, back up to task 1 again, because we're multitasking. We've got them all going. Small b, 2, big capital B, Roman numeral 2, back to the top. You got that? You're going like this. Okay. All right. Now I've got to escape for a minute. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to do those tasks. A, 1, capital A, Roman numeral 1, up and down, all right? When you get down here, finally, you're going to come up here from the bottom column. You're going to put small j in this box, and you're going to glance up here, and there'll be a time. And you just jot that time down in this box. Then you're going to go down to the next one, and you'll be putting 10, which is the last one of this task, and you'll glance up, and you'll put the time that you see in that box. Got it? All right? So we're going to capture, we're going to get data. I love data. All right. Good. Everybody got it? All right. Get ready, because Debbie's going to hit in a minute. On your mark. You got to be over start, Debbie. You got to get your arrow over start.
Go.
Go. Okay. Yeah. Go. I'll give you all 0.2 of a second back. Okay, looks like most of us are okay. All right, you got all those done. Multitasking, you got them all finished. Tell your customers how great it was. Flip it over to the other side. This says RAPID, which is a JPL acronym I won't explain, but basically this is going to be unitasking. We're going to do one thing at a time.
Okay, so everybody, some people are confused. So the first time, if you went across in the first row, across in the second, across in the third, and took your time, that's fine. When you turn it over, do it the opposite. Go down first, one row, down, until you get to here. Some of you did 60 across. So now if you went up and down like this, you're going to go across.
Yeah. Okay, so this one's unitasking, meaning we're going to take task 1, and we're just going to finish it. We're not going to do anything in task 2, which means it's going to be small a, b, c, d, e, down to j, right? We're going to reset this clock, and you're going to see a time, and I want you to jot that time down. Then you go down to task 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to 10, okay? And you're going to see a time, and you're going to put that time in the end of the box. Got it? Yeah. And then you finish the last ones. They're very difficult, of course. Roman numerals will take you a long time. Okay, so let's reset.
So we're going across. No, not yet. Just a minute. 1 minute. We're going to clear it. Okay, we ready?
Okay, on your mark. Get set. Go. Unitasking all the way across. A, B, C, D. Put your time down at the end of the row. There's a lot of talking going on. Are we good? Okay. Now I need it quiet because I got to be able to hear something. When you are a process improvement specialist, data is really important to you. So data fascinates me. So we're going to get some data from you guys from this experiment. All right, I'm going to record some times down here on the multitasking one. So turn to that front page, the first page, where you're doing them up and down and up and down and up and down. So for task 1, yell out some times at the end of the line.
105. 113.
105. For the very first line.
105.
105. 113. What else? 120 something. 155. 122. Okay. So I they're all over the place, which is not unexpected. And I'm going to be really generous to this multitasking thing. I'm going to say 120 because there's some 150s, there's a 113. I'm going to say 120. In fact, I don't even have a line out there that's 120 yet. There we go. All right, so task 1, we were able to finish it in about 120. Task 2, actually, I tell you what, I know it was just a few seconds later, right? Right? You put a thing in about 4 seconds later? Okay. Because I've done this dozens of times. All right, so let's say about 124, let's say. Just a few more seconds. So that's task 2. And now task 3, about 4 seconds after that. So now we're up to about 128. And then, of course, Roman numerals is going to be at least 6 seconds after that. So we will give it...
130?
Yeah, we'll give it 130. We'll make it only 2 seconds later. Because believe me, unitasking is going to win. Do you know this, right? Okay. Yeah. Now, unitasking. Number 1, some numbers at the end of the line. 3, 4, what? 5,
6,
7. Okay, I heard 3, 4. I'm gonna give this one a handicap. We're gonna give it a 6.
That's what I had.
So right about there. Now we can't tell anybody we're working on that second task, so we just have to do this. So that's the start of number 2. What are some numbers at the end of the line?
17.
20, 17, 11. Wow, 11. Well, let's do 18. Because I heard an 11 in there. Let's do 18. So we're right back here. Okay, now that's the point we started in task 3. Numbers.
31.
36.
30.
35.
31.
31. Okay, so let's say
35.
20. Oh, we'll do 30. We'll do 32. How's this? Okay, and finally, Roman numerals. What's the number 1?
1 minute.
1 minute and 1 second. 50. 57 seconds.
45.
45. Wow. 45. All right. Well, so we'll do 55. How's that sound? Because I heard a 45. I heard some minutes. Okay. There's the 4 tasks, right? What strikes you about the data? This is your top priority task. This is your top priority task. We finished our 4th priority task before we ever finished our top priority task when we were multitasking. I draw a line down there. Of course, if you're in business and you got customers and you're going, number 4 customer, I finished your task, as opposed to this particular one that says I'm not done yet on my number 1 priority task. Now, I'm going to tell you a little simple story about myself. It took a while for this little thing to soak into my head. I was down at Boeing Corporation. They showed me this thing. They were in a program they called 10X, which was intended to be 10 times productivity is what they were looking for in their program. And they were asking questions about other things, other tools, but they said, we got to show you this. So they did. And then they had us go to some teams that were using the technique that Debbie's going to show you to organize their work and try to be sure they were doing exactly this, focusing and finishing, is what I call it, on a single task. They worked with over 600 teams at Boeing, and they captured the data, and the average across 600 teams of improved productivity was 290%. 290%. Okay, now, so I came back to JPL, and I'm starting to work with teams. I'm going, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. We have teams doing this. And it took, 9 months or something for me to realize I can do this at my desk. It's perfectly scalable from one person to a corporation. Boeing was willing now at that point to be telling customers, you know what, we're not working on your instrument right now because it's not our top priority. But believe me, we will deliver according to contract. And that takes some guts. I want to show you something here. Because I love data. I'm going to give you a little more data. This is Mark's personal data. I've been capturing my work, organizing my work, using this thing since 1997. So I can tell you I got with this thing. 1997, I'm managing our business systems project. JPL is replacing all of their business systems, $36 million project, and I am stressed to the max. I've got tasks going everywhere. It's hard to remember everything that's going on. My brother-in-law comes down from Oroville, California, and he says, "Have you heard about Franklin Planner?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I see people walking around. I think it's just a status symbol for the yuppies." He says, "No, you really ought to look into it." I said, yeah, okay. So, and I ignored him. And he's a really smart guy, so I shouldn't have. So a couple, 3-4 months later, we're going up to Washington State, where my brother lives. We stop in Oroville, where my brother-in-law lives. And we spent the night. We're getting ready to leave the next day. He says, "Hey, you remember that Franklin Planner thing? Here's a cassette. Tells you all about it." He says, "Oh, okay, fine. I'll stick it with it." So I go to Washington State. We have a very nice Christmas with my family. We're driving back down, and it's nighttime. And I have the driving responsibilities. And I'm bored to tears. Everybody else is just snoring. And so I thought, hey, there's that cassette. So I slipped it in there so I'd have something to listen to. And they start out on the cassette like, "Do you have Post-it notes all over your monitor? Do you have notebooks where you've triple underlined and starred things you're supposed to remember, and you have to go back and forth from page to page?" It described my life perfectly. And then it went on to describe how you could get things nicely organized, put things on days when if you don't have to work until next Tuesday, you don't even look at them until next Tuesday, you write them down for that day. It sounded really, really good. So I got one of these planners and I started using it. My stress level came way down because I wasn't flipping back. What did I forget? Where did I triple star? I knew there was something last week and I forget what it was. I didn't forget. So in 1997, I started using this, and it was really, really valuable for me. But the one thing I did, every day I would indicate the tasks that I wanted or needed to complete that day, if I could. And then there were some tasks that I was just waiting for somebody to call. So those were my A's were what I wanted to complete. My B's were the ones that didn't matter. So in 2012, it finally sinks into my head that I should be doing this prioritization, the focus and finish, at my desk. So I did one little tiny change. Every morning, I turned the page. I had all my A's identified that I wanted to complete in the day, and I started going, number 1, that's most important. Number 2, 3, 4, and I prioritized them at the beginning of the day. And then, and this took some discipline to start with, I would work on number 1 until I got the dadgum thing done, or until I just got stopped and somebody had I had to wait for somebody to call me back. Sometimes it was really easy. Sometimes it was, create a presentation, take research and whatnot in hours. But I wouldn't get bored. Yeah, I would get bored, but I would not stop until I got done with the task because I'd set that as my priority task. So with a little bit of discipline, I started doing that. So I'm doing this for about 4 or 5 weeks. And then one day, I look at it and I complete every task that I had planned for the day. Now, the number of times that it happened for me since 1997 up until 2012 was 0. It never happened before. So I thought, just interesting little data point because I love data. So I'm working away, and about 3-4 weeks, again, another day, and a lot of tasks, and I complete all of them in a day. By December, it was August I started doing this. By December, I had 4 of those days. So how many? 15 years, 0, 4 months, 4 times now I've completed all the tasks. So I started tracking all the days that I completed every task that was on my list. This past Tuesday, I crossed off 210. Now, the other thing that was interesting, about 2 years later, I thought, you know what, I've taken on more work. I just feel like I have. I mean, my lists are longer, and I think I'm being more productive. But I like data. So what I did was I went back to 2011 when I was not doing the prioritization, I was not doing focus and finish. I counted up every task that I was able to complete, Monday, Wednesday, Friday through the whole year, and I captured that number. Then I went to 2013 where I was doing that, and I'd been at it for a while, counted up Monday, Wednesday, Friday. My increase in productivity between those 2 years was 52%. I was doing 52% more in the exact same period of time. I didn't feel like I was that much more busy. And I was capturing these days when I was finishing everything. Now, 52% doesn't sound so good against 290% at Boeing, right? But part of what I was doing, I was limiting my WIP, my work in process, which is what this is, and that's the key to this process. That Little's Law I mentioned is talking about limiting your work in process. So I was doing that by putting tasks not on the day today, but on the day I needed to do them. So I was spreading them out already. Okay, so that was very exciting to me, and as I said, my passion is personal productivity. So I got all excited and I started spreading this all over the lab, and I teach this at as many seminars as I can. So we're going to go back now to the slides. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly what you have to do, okay? What I found was, I was all excited to tell people how simple this was, but unless they know exactly what to do, it's not that helpful. So, what you do is you're going to break your homework assignments into logical pieces that will take anywhere from a few minutes to maybe a couple of hours. Now, you don't get much beyond a couple of hours. That should be the longest. And why is that? Let's say you've got a book report that's due. Well, and you say, book report. Well, this book report may be due next Tuesday. In the meantime, you've got tests you've got to study for and things like that. Book report involves several things, just like any project. I've got to pick the book. I've got to maybe read chapters 1 and 2. I'm not going to read all 100 chapters or whatever. Then I've got to read chapters 3 and 4. And so you're breaking it into pieces that are logical chunks. So its book report becomes a set of chunks. And Debbie's going to give you some great examples for how to break up the type of stuff you're going to do. So you break it up, and this is how you do it. You brainstorm it on Post-it notes. She'll show you how it's done. All these steps you need to complete the assignment. One step per Post-it note. You place the Post-it notes in the order you plan to complete them. In other words, the most important. Your most important is number 1. It's just like this. My number 1, my number 2, my number 3. And then using a calendar, you decide what date it's due, so you keep track of that. So it's due next Tuesday. You write that down in the bottom right-hand corner of the Post-it note. So you've got the task, the due date, so you don't lose track of any of that. So when you're planning each day, when you're doing your homework, you know which ones are coming up soon, and you know how to prioritize. Now, the second one is you prioritize the tasks, which we just talked about, what's most important, and there'll be criteria like, well, tomorrow's the test, or some things, whatever it is you're using to prioritize your tasks. And then here's the thing: no more than 3 tasks active at any one time. And Debbie will show you on a board how you make sure you've got your work in process tasks, no more than 3. Now, why 3? You're supposed to be completing number 1 and work it until you're done, and ideally you do. But occasionally, let's say you're working on a team, and your task is number 1 priority task. You get it done, but somebody else on the team has got to feed you some piece of information before you can finish. Okay, so that's still number 1 priority, but you go to 2 now, and you can work on 2. And if the same thing happens until you go to 3. But the idea is that's the only reason you've got 3 tasks in your work in process, is in case you get stuck. Okay. You use a whiteboard, which we're going to show you here, or an open wall to create a productivity board, we call it. Place no more than 3 Post-its in your doing area in the priority order you're going to do them, 1, 2, and 3, and then place the rest of them in the to-do area, and Debbie's going to demonstrate what that looks like. So let me start right now. Any questions up to this point? Yes?
Did you put this on a handout?
Let's see. Can you give them the slides? Send them the slides?
Yeah, we can, if you give us the slides, we'll post them with the video.
That sound okay?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So, and then I've said this before, I'm going to repeat it. You work on number 1 priority task until it's completed. I don't care how boring it is, or how challenging, or whatever. If it's your number 1, you get her done. All right. That's the magic. Okay, here's my Russian proverb again. Here comes Debbie. She's going to demonstrate how this is done. And I think these, whoops, went too far. So there's the exercises, and you've got something really like grades. Do you need to see that?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. I need to make one minor adjustment to the presentation, so this, or do you want to do it while I put it?
I'm going to turn them all around.
I think I'm going to go front and center. business systems implementation project that Mark was mentioning. And I can attest to the fact that, oh, that thing. See, I tried.
It's following me everywhere.
All right, take two. I was on that business systems implementation project that Mark had mentioned to you a little while back. Can't hear? Okay. And I can attest to the fact that he has been carrying around that planner and it's working for him. What's also been working for him and his teams is what we call the productivity board or the Kanban board. This is what I'm anxious to show you, and I think you're going to implement it at home and see a great difference. We did it for our daughter actually last year at the start of 7th grade when she moved to La Cañada Middle School. And the reason being was because she was starting her first year with a 0-period PE class, which then started at 6:30 a.m. If you can imagine. Thank you for changing the start time. And so I said, you know what? That's fine. You can take your 0-period PE class, but we can't stay up until 11 o'clock at night doing homework. It's just not sustainable. So we decided that we were going to do this and run a tight ship at home. And it took a little getting used to, but I can tell you that once we got started, she went ahead and did this religiously every day. And it worked, and it made all the difference. So let me show you how to set up the board, and this is what you will want to do. Okay. So, okay. So what you want to do is create a legend for every subject. Math, in our example, will be blue. Social science will be pink. And language arts will be yellow. You know, I might just turn this the other way so it's easier for me to write. And we divide the board into 3 sections. First section is to do. Next section is doing. This is a section that you only want 3 tasks in at any given time. And done. Okay? So when your child comes home from school on a Monday and brings home their homework assignments, this is one example of what we had in 6th grade actually. You'll want to sit with them and help them break their homework assignments into pieces so that they learn how to manage their work and schedule their work. The only thing that the teachers give them is math, let's say, sections 23.1 to 23.4, 1 per day. Well, that's easy. That's pretty self-explanatory. Social science, however, there's an assignment where they have to prepare for a debate on Friday. Now, they might need a little help figuring out, what this is comprised of and how they need to approach it. For example, you can help them break it down and say, well, did you select your dynasty? This was a dynasty debate. And, of course, they did that on Monday, but then they need to know that they have to do some reading, do some research, and make time for that. Also outlining the facts of their dynasty, the facts of other dynasties, and perform a dry run with their teeth, right? So those are, the tasks that you want to help them break down. Language arts, they're reading a book, Tom Sawyer, reading chapters 8 and 9. Really? Oh, wow. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Tom Sawyer, chapter 8 and 9, due Thursday. That's pretty self-explanatory. And quilt patch. It's due the following Monday, but you don't want to leave it all to the weekend. So you'll help them kind of break this down so they can do it through the week, decide on the design, buy materials, cut and assemble, and sew. Maybe that's something you leave for the weekend for one of the in-laws to do, or grandparents to do. And the essay, like Mark had said before, when they bring home a book report, you want to help them break that down as well. Rough draft, edit rough draft and revise that, and create a final draft. Just so that they know, writing is a process, it takes time, so they don't have to do it all at the 11th hour the night before it's due. So let me help you, let's see, set up the board. Okay. The other section that we added to our board at home is awaiting feedback, so that if they want to give it to a parent for review, they'll put it down here and then move it back up again. Okay, so we'll do a few for example purposes. You get the idea. This is math. This is section 23.1. We're going to write down the task and we're going to write the due date in the lower right-hand corner. In this case, this one's going to be due on Tuesday, so we're going to write Tuesday. Okay. And that'll be, we'll put everything in to do right now, and then we'll organize and move things over. So math 23.2. This is for Wednesday, and so on and so forth. So we can go ahead and do the whole thing, or we can skip. Okay, social science. So social science is pink. Select dynasty. And research. Outline facts. And dry run. Okay, language arts. Generally, this takes about 15 minutes to do each day, but once they've outlined their tasks, they get started, you see what's on the board, you can interact with them, the communication between the parent and child generally skyrockets, you're more aware of what they're doing, how to help, you see if they have a roadblock, if they get stuck, you can help them get unstuck. So I think for example purposes, we can just go ahead with this for now. So math, of course, we're going to move, that's going to be the first thing that we work on because we have a math assignment that we know we have to work on for Tuesday. Yeah. Select dynasty, actually we did that, on Monday, so we're going to give ourselves credit and move it over to done. There's something just, very satisfying about seeing your Post-its over here in the done column, so it's really fun when we get to move those over. All right, we selected our dynasty, but very important, we have to start our research. That takes time, so we want to make sure that's the next thing that we're doing after our math. All right, and let's see. Decide on design, yep. All right, so this is how they do it, and actually the most important thing goes in front. Priority 1 goes here, the next priority here, and then the last priority here, and then they start working on their math when the math is done. they move it over to done. Okay? This is reading, doing research. They're going to work on that until they've got a level of confidence that they know what they're going to outline, and then they'll move that over to done. Okay? Decide on design after they've had a chance to think about that and put down some ideas on paper. That goes over to done. Okay? Once everything moves over, or somewhere in the process, you can move over the next level of priority, or have them do that. And so the next thing that we're going to do is another math assignment, right? And buy materials. Oh, but social science, it's got to go first, sorry. Because we've got more time on this one. All right? And the process continues. I think you all get the idea. If, for example, they want their parents to check their math before they turn it in the next day, it's going to go down here, right? They're going to outline their facts, finish that, move it over to done. And when the parent has had the opportunity to review and correct their math, it goes back up here until they've made their edits, over to done. It's, this approach is, it's really a way to visualize what your child has to do. It's a way to help them get out in front of everything that they need to do so that they're not scrambling at the 11th hour to get things done. And it really helps eliminate the stress factor, or at least reduce it quite a bit. And everybody's got their arms around school and assignments, and there's more of a work-life or school-life balance in place as a result. Any questions? Yeah. There is. Actually, the last time Mark and I did this presentation, Jamie Lusader was present, and she implemented for the technology office Trello. And Mark has some other options that he's going to tell you about later in the presentation, but I had the opportunity to research and review some videos on Trello, and it seems like it would work really well. I think once the student has their arms around the methodology and the process, and once they learn it, then they can graduate to something more online and more collaborative with you or with their team. What's that?
More portable too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this assumes they're working on everything at home. You're right. And sometimes, they go to the grandparents or they go to a friend's house, depending on, what age they're at. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. 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 The comment was, recognizing that it's very important and helpful for parent and child to work together to learn how to break everything, their higher level tasks into subtasks so they can organize their work. And also that, once you get into it and you start doing it, you might recognize that you need to add a task, right, and do something a little bit different and insert that as a new priority. So it can be dynamic, yeah. Question?
Actually, one comment about what you just said. I think when the children are all involved in putting this together, it's also accountability on their side.
Yes.
Because once they do it, they say, okay, I'm accountable to this. Second, would you recommend adding the days of the week there as well to the left to start with?
Okay, so first part was on accountability, and that's an outcome of this. Obviously, they feel accountable. They're also very satisfied when they move something over to done. They're getting something out of it as well. and the interaction. You become aware of what they're working on, and you can help them. Days of the week. So what we do is, and this wasn't real clear on the demo, so I apologize, but whenever we have a post-it, we always put the due date in the lower right-hand corner. So you can put the actual, this is due on 10/23, and then your order of priority is obviously by date. And the best part about this is you're really training them for, how to do work effectively later on in life. And let's see. I lost my train of thought. Question.
Yeah, this has been so helpful. So one of the things that you said, it's a small, I wanted some elaboration on was that you have to have a discipline to be able to stay focused. And, myself included, our family has a tremendous difficulty staying off of phones, right? And it's such a source of distraction for us. I would like to see what you have in terms of tips on dealing with that and other parents' experience with that with their kids.
So I can speak to that a little bit. We have the same challenge at home. It seems like everybody has an iPhone. All the kids have an iPhone, and it is rather addicting because they're not just using it as a tool, as a phone. They're online, and they're looking at it. I think when it's homework time, the phone goes in a certain location in the house. It goes in a little cubby, and when they need to use it, they use it. I've also heard of parents implementing a tool called Disney Circle, and I see some heads nodding. This is something that allows you, to set some controls and systematically turn the phone off, so it prevents them from using it excessively and becoming a distraction. We haven't done that yet, but we're kind of old school, and in my day it was the TV goes off at a certain time and you go to bed at a certain time. So in our house, the phone, we try to turn the phone off at a certain time.
Sorry, you said the
Disney Circle, it's called. It's on Amazon, and it's about $85. I did look into it, so we're contemplating. Really? Somebody said there's a free application that allows you to do this as well.
So I noticed that you put dates on there for when it's due. Are you also, or should we as a parent also say, this should take you about 15 minutes, or this should take you no more than an hour? Or, should we give them guidelines on times? And my daughter could play with her fingers or eraser or play with her toes. Instead of doing any of that, next thing I know, I come in there an hour later. What have you been doing? Oh.
So your question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I've got to get in the picture. Among the tools that I've got, there's a thing called Pomodoro, and Jamie wrote about this in the article she wrote last year after our presentation. And I'd go back and I'd take a look at that. It's a really simple thing. By the way, you notice that I like simple, right? What it does is you set a timer for 25 minutes, period. And you work for the 25 minutes, and then when the timer goes off, you take a break. Now, Jamie's article says 5 minutes. Maybe you can make it 10. If you're doing the phone thing, I would say, okay, you set 25 minutes on your phone. You do not touch that phone. You work on your task. Go, 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 go. When the 25 minutes is up, ding. Okay, check text for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Put it back. 25 minutes again on the task. Go and work and focus on the task. It's a great technique that is applied in companies and businesses by individuals to become more and more productive, and it works quite well. There's almost a competitive thing that goes on when I'm doing it. It's like, all right, I'm against the clock. I've got certain things I got to do. My mind doesn't wander much, and I just don't get distracted because I know that I got 25 minutes, and also I know at the end of 25 I'm going to take a break. I'm going to relax for a few minutes and go get a cup of coffee or something like that.
Is 25 minutes the magic number?
I don't know that 5 minutes is exactly magic, but the model they say is 25 minutes, 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 5 minutes, and then I think it's just 25 and then maybe a longer break. So maybe you get an hour and a half of more intense work and then you take a longer break. So Pomodoro works well. In that article Jamie wrote's got it in there, which I thought was great. I didn't mention it. So. Good.
What's Pomodoro?
Yeah, Pomodoro.
What is that?
P-O-M-O-R-D, P-O-M-O-D-O-R-O. It's just a technique. If you look it up if you Google it, it's P-O-M-O-D-O-R-O. Pomodoro. And it's a simple technique. And there's one of the ultimate tools I'm going to show you here has got the capability to turn on a Pomodoro timer at the bottom of the screen if you want to combine that with your work productivity. All right? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Especially with kids, when things happen and you cannot follow your schedule, like you're planning perfectly everything during the week, and then something comes on and you have to go to an event like this today. You have to reorganize everything. Any suggestion or?
Well, life happens, right? Things do come up, and so on that note, I would say that's part of the reason why we're doing this, right? To allow for a little bit more free time, so that we're not overloading ourselves on any one given day. So hopefully, you've only scheduled about 2 hours of homework a night, and you do have time to go to grandma's for dinner or whatever it may be. So that's, you don't want to overschedule yourself on any given day, but break things up so that you've got your free time each day and hopefully on the weekends.
Okay, so here's my slide, which was in anticipation of, is there an app for that? Because I get that at JP all the time. I introduce this to a new team, and they go, hey, well, Post-it notes on a whiteboard, for Pete's sake, isn't there an app for that? Okay, there's a reason for this. It is really fast and simple. I can get one of these set up in about 10, 15 minutes for a new team. And here's the thing. You notice that Debbie says we added this one down here after we worked for a little while. My experience is every team their work is a little bit different, and so designing the board to match what matches their pace and rhythm of work is important. So the reason to start with this is race it, start it, move it around a little bit until you've got it figured out. Until then, I wouldn't go to an app. I'd get it figured out here. But once you've got a model working for you, then I would maybe go and look for an app. So it's really quick. It's really visual. And in my work, visual is a big deal. We can see what tasks are active, the ones they're working on, when they're due. We've got the dates over here so the parents can sort of pay attention if they're falling behind on one that's due really soon. You may want to talk to them about getting that up there. How large the backlog is. See how visual this is? We've got a fairly clear backlog. So we're almost done over here. This is a huge deal, which is the bottom line there, and Debbie mentioned it. This appeals to me. Frankly, my team is working on one just like this because I love it so much. And we meet twice a week, 15 minutes. Actually, it's less than that. We about 7 minutes, real quick tag up. Everybody's got a line, and you can tell who is overbooked, so how we reload, redistribute work. And then the completions are fabulous. You get to move them over there, and you look at your week and go, whew, I did have a good week. I got them all over. There's something significant about that. Also, in my book over here, check, check, check. You get that sense of accomplishment when you get to check one off? Yeah, it's great. Okay. All right. Now my volume's okay. I'm running out of batteries or something. Let's see. I believe the next slide is some of the options, and okay, good. So when you get the slides, Trello is one that Jamie, who's the chief technology officer for the district, used. She actually listened to this and put this together for her team, and she was really excited about it. Oh, good. Is that where we are? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I apologize for the technical difficulties. So we did want to touch on immediate benefits coming out of this, and also future benefits. So some of the immediate benefits, of course, we've mentioned earlier, completing your tasks quickly, which means usually on time, and you get them in. It improves your grades. By the way, we notice that as we're doing this kind of thing, as people are more focused, the quality of their work goes up. And so quality and it goes up, and time or cycle time goes down for completion. Those two seem to go together a lot. Gaining more time to do what you love. I mean, you've got to get a balance between life and school, and then reducing stress. And then Debbie mentioned the communication between the students and the parents, it skyrockets. It goes way up when you can see what's going on over here, and you can have a dialogue about, should we break this into smaller pieces? Should this thing be number one priority as opposed to number two? You can have some discussion about how to organize their work. Teach them a little bit about how to get organized, which is going to be huge, which is the future benefits. If, as a student, you make this a personal habit, and that is plan your daily tasks, right? Prioritize them. It takes me less than 10 minutes in the morning to lay out my entire day and prioritize them, and then work on that top priority, the number one, until it's done. Then you get to go to number two. You do it that way, I can guarantee you'll have the results that we were talking about. I mean, you demonstrated it here. I told you what my experience was in terms of productivity, what Boeing Corporation was experiencing across 600 plus teams. You're going to have a huge advantage going to college, but also when you got your first job. Because if you're organized like this, you're going to go into your first job, and somehow you're going to be able to complete twice as much as your compatriots. And your boss is going to notice that. Believe me, I've been a boss for many, 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 many years, and I can tell the ones who are really well organized, and they're just churning out an incredible amount of work. So the boss will notice, and this is how you do it. The alternative tools, the slide, Trello was the one that we mentioned. There's one called Kanban Flow. It's free. I think Trello's free. Is Trello? Yeah, okay. Kanban Flow is free. It's got the Pomodoro timer and the... Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Kanban is Japanese. A lot of our improvement stuff comes from Japanese language. KANBANFLOW. So kanbanflow.com, all one word, and that works. And then, of course, my favorite, the Franklin Planner. I'm not a yuppie anymore, and I still carry it around. So, I love that one. It is simple, and there's a lot of other features to it that really make it useful. So those are some alternative tools. And that wraps up the presentation. Questions? Okay. Thank you much. I love doing this. We'll get the slides out, so the last few slides, I apologize, but we'll get those